Hey, what's up? Today I'm going to show you how to truncate text with JavaScript. If you're not familiar with what this is, you've probably seen it before. You may just not be familiar with the word. So here I'm looking at some Google results, and you'll see a little excerpt from the page in the result listing here. And you see how it's cut off here at the end, and then we get 3 dots, right? This is where they are truncating the excerpt here. So you get so much of it, and then it's cut off and usually followed by 3 dots or an ellipsis, or sometimes maybe another symbol, but typically 3 dots. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to do this with JavaScript. So I've set up a little dummy page here just to do a demo, and all it is an input with a button that says truncate. So let's look at the code for this. We can largely ignore most of this. I've got some CSS just styling the body. I have, let's see, we'll just hide that, yeah. I have a script here that's just kind of setting things up. So we're grabbing the form, we're grabbing the input, and then I've got a couple of hidden divs on the page just to put the results into, show the original versus the result once you truncate the text that they input. I've got an event listener being attached to the form here that's kind of facilitating all this. And then once you actually submit the form or hit the button to truncate, then what we're going to do is grab the input. We're going to put the input, just pass it on into the original container, and then with original colon here. And then we're going to put the input into the result container, but we're also going to pass it to this truncate function before actually putting it into the result container. So that's really it, and then we're just going to show those containers. So I'm adding a little class. I have a little utility class up here that's just show or hide, display none, display block. All right, so that's it. All that's going on here is some setup. Okay, the meat and potatoes of this video is this truncate function. So this is something that we're going to pass the input, whatever you input in the field, we're going to pass that to this function, and that function is going to be responsible for actually truncating the text. So I'm going to hide this as well. And here we see my form. We've got the containers here I mentioned, the input. We can largely ignore all of this as well. What we care about here is writing a function that actually will truncate the text. Okay, so here we have the truncate function that we need to fill out. We know we're going to accept at least one argument for this function. It's going to be the string that we actually want to truncate. So I'm going to go ahead and put in input here. This will be our string that we accept. And another helpful thing that might be good to add here would be a maximum length. So we could just say this function will always truncate at 80 characters. But that's not really helpful if we want to be able to reuse this throughout our application. Like, what if in some places we want to truncate 80 characters, and in some places we want to do 250? It really could be a lot more useful if we are able to pass in a maximum length for the text that we want to truncate. So I'm going to add a max length here, and we can set a default still so that if they call it without this, we at least have something. And I'm just going to make it 256. I recently had to use this on a project, and I was making a little card, and it had like a description, and based on the height of the card and the design, it kind of made sense to just cap it off around 256 characters. So now that we're down in the function body, the first thing that we probably want to check for is, well, what if they put in an input that is already less than the maximum length, right? At that point, we don't really need to truncate it. We can just show the whole thing, right? So we'll put in an if statement here and say if input.length is less than or equal to the maximum length, then we'll just return input, okay? We could also go ahead and, if we wanted to add some, if we wanted to be really defensive with our coding, we could just make sure they passed in a string, all that kind of stuff. We could throw errors if they passed in something that's not a string, or they passed in a length that's not a number, or things like that. I'm not going to do that here, but if you really want to make a very robust utility that can be used in production, you might want to add some stuff like that too, or just use TypeScript. But now we've taken care of that. So now we get to assume that whatever the input is over the maximum length, which by default is 256, but could be something else if they passed in another value. So I'm going to set a variable called truncated equal to input, and then we're going to call substring on this. This is a method on the string prototype that will actually take a start index and an end index of the string, and it will return that little slice of that string. So I'm going to say let's just start from the beginning, because we want to just start at the beginning and go all the way up to the point at which we need to truncate. And then the index for the second is going to be the maximum length. Now, I'm also, we saw earlier in the Google results that usually there's an ellipsis, or like 3 periods, 3 dots, right, after the truncated text. So in order to account for that, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3. Okay, and then I'll just set a variable here called ellipsis that's equal to 3 dots. And then we're going to return truncated plus ellipsis. So here we're just concatenating the 2 strings together. Okay, so if we save this and we switch back over to our application, I'm just going to grab some dummy text down here real quick. All right, and I'm just going to paste that in and hit truncate. So we see the original is all of this office ipsum, and the result is cutting off right at index 253, which, just take my word for it, it is. Or you can count the characters if you'd like to pause the video. And then we're adding the 3 dots. Okay, so we've just truncated the text. Now, we could clean this up a little bit, or we could just make something that's a little more concise if we wanted to. All of this really could be kind of a one-liner, so I'm actually going to, just for demonstration, I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to say, let's just do const truncate equals input maximum length equals 256. And we're going to make an arrow function here that will say is input.length less than or equal to maximum length. And if we're going to do a ternary here, so if it is, we will just return input. Otherwise, we will return, we'll do a template literal here, and we'll say input.substring 0 max length minus 3, and then we'll add our 3 dots. Okay, and let's see, we have some error here. Oh, and it's because I didn't close my brackets here. All right, so we can just leave that as it is, comment it out. Now if I hit refresh here and truncate again, we see we still have the same result. Okay, so this is just a shorthand, kind of up to your own preference, which you prefer to work with. I usually prefer this more concise syntax, but if you want to be a little more explicit about everything, this is the way to go down here. So with that, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about this or want me to do a follow-up video on any of this kind of stuff, I'm happy to. Just let me know. And if you got some value from this video, I would really appreciate if you give it a like and subscribe. Thanks.